we have a very special guest joining us once again today. It is ESPN contributor, co-host of the Puck Social Pod, CTO of Betalytics, Rachel Doerrie, joining us today. What's going on, Rachel?
Oh, casually launching a brand new Betalytics site. So there's been nothing that's gone wrong and no one's bothered me for the last 2 days, but excited that it's here and that it's happened because it'll give me more opportunity to kind of come on shows and be normal again.
Outstanding. Well, listen, I finally hit a bet last night. It was an Ovi anytime goal. You know, that's a real tough one. It took a lot of research for me to come up with that one. But I'm like 4 and 200,000 this year, so I could use some Betalytics in my life. But we'll get you started. We haven't talked in a little while, and I got to get your take on the Vancouver Canucks, everything that's going on over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the drama goes back to, feels like that went on for years, but they finally make the deal. JT Miller back in Manhattan. He's a Ranger. They flip some of the return to go get Marcus Pettersson from the Penguins. What was your reaction to everything that went on in Vancouver?
Well, first of all, it looks like the start for JT and the Rangers kind of reuniting has been and really good for Miller and the Rangers. So, I mean, that's great. The weight a little bit comes off of Pettersson's shoulders as it pertains to not having a guy in the room that you're constantly at odds with. But congratulations to the Pittsburgh Penguins for winning the JT Miller trade. I'm sure as a Flyers fan, you probably don't want to hear that, but that's just that's the truth of the matter. It is very hard to get rinsed twice in a single day. And then to be completely overshadowed by the Dallas Mavericks getting absolutely destroyed in a trade 48 hours later was wild. But I'm always leery, and Steve Warrior, former AGM of the Panthers, had a great piece on Puckpedia about this. I'm always leery about two things. When you're trading with a team that you used to work for, i.e. Rutherford and Alvin with the Penguins, and when you're trading an asset, first of all, that first-round pick was the best asset in the deal. And the fact that they turned around and traded that less than 5 hours later, I'm always skeptical of that because that seems like the Penguins basically said to them, you have to go get us a first-round pick or we're not giving you Marcus Pettersson. And so they didn't even bother to, kind of look into the fact that this could be an unprotected first-round pick next year. And it's all right, so now you're just trading that away potentially. Do I think that the Rangers are going to be in that territory? No, but you can't just acquire the best asset in a trade and then immediately turn it around and trade it for a 28-year-old defenseman. That's crazy to me. And so for me, I look at it and I'm do I think Marcus Pettersson's a great fit on that blue line? Yeah, I absolutely do. Would I have given up what I did? Nope, definitely would not have done that, because if you look at it now, they've turned Horvat and Miller basically into Hronek, Pettersson, and Edel. And if I said to you, I have Bo Horvat and JT Miller, and you have to give me Hronek, Pettersson, and Edel, you'd be like, no, we're not doing that. So I just think that that's not all that great.
Yeah, they've reshaped their roster, and at least they have something to move forward with and see how it goes, evaluate the rest of the season, the Canucks. But do you think they're done? Do you think this is book closed on this chapter for them, or how do you think it goes into the summer?
Yeah, there's no way that this is book closed. I mean, you've got Brock Besser that is top 10 in goal scoring in franchise history, and they seemingly forgot that he exists, which is kind of wild considering he's their best winger. But then, I look at it and I go, Pettersson's no trade clause kicks in on July 1st. I could see that if it continues in this manner, I could see them trying to move him. Maybe it's at the draft. You see that Noah Dobson's available potentially. If I'm Vancouver and I really want to make an impact on defense, imagine a deep pairing of Noah Dobson and Quinn Hughes. That seems pretty good. And then you have Marcus Pettersson and Filip Hronek. All of a sudden, that becomes probably one of the best top fours in the entire league after going from Quinn Hughes and a band of merry men. I think I'd probably take a look at a trade that maybe involves Noah Dobson there. If you want to get off Elias Pettersson, seems to fit. It really depends on what the Islanders are doing, though. I don't know necessarily. I personally would not be trading Elias Pettersson. There's a reason 30 teams are calling. I wouldn't be in a hurry to do that. I think there's probably something going on in his life that could be impacting his play. I mean, we know what bullying can do. But you never know what someone's going on. Like we forget athletes are people too. And you never know if there's something going on in his life that's impacting his performance. And so I would strongly advise against trading Elias Pettersson, but I don't think the Canucks are done. It's Jim Rutherford. Like, he has a track record.
I would highly suggest they trade Pettersson to Philadelphia. Personally, that's just my thought.
Michkov?
Yeah, maybe like his little brother or something. I mean, after the way these last couple trades went, maybe Rasmus Ristolainen and some other stuff.
Honestly, I could see a trade around Travis Sanheim being a thing.
I could see that as well. So we're looking forward to Four Nations, but Sweden, USA, I feel like that's going to have a little extra mustard on it, at least from a narrative perspective.
I feel like Canada, USA might take the cake now, given everything that is going on for some unknown reason. But Sweden, USA is going to be interesting, right? Elias Pettersson is a very non-confrontational human being. One of the nicest people I've met in hockey in terms of how he treats people. I think JT Miller is going to probably try and take a run at him every chance he gets. Because when JT Miller is the type of guy, when he puts on the national uniform, like, turns into a different player, a lot of that happens for Sweden too. Like, I think we're going to see a different version of William Nylander, probably a different version of Victor Hedman, even though those are both excellent hockey players. I think goaltending-wise, you probably see a different version of Linus Ullmark, closer to the Boston version than the Ottawa version. But yeah, Sweden, USA, I mean, I'm looking forward to that matchup. Pettersson is probably going to be playing in a maybe second power play unit. I don't think that Miller is going to be used in a matchup role, given that the Americans decided to take guys like Kreider and Trocheck and other defensive guys over the likes of Tage Thompson and Clayton Keller and Cole Caulfield. So I think they're going to need Miller to play in an offensive role, and he's probably not going to be tasked shutting down Pettersson, so I don't even know how much they're going to be on the ice together.
It's always important in a short tournament to have role players and culture. It's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You have to have those guys really grind it out for you.
Like the World Juniors? Surely we didn't learn our lesson there, did we?
No, we just got to keep doing this over and over until we're proven correct. While we're talking some trades here, Rachel, gotta ask your thoughts on the latest Flyers move. They ship Farabee and Frost to Calgary. They get Kuzmenko and Peltier in a second back. I always would just love to hear the part of the conversation where it's, man, I just need that 2028 7th rounder. But what did you make of this trade when it went down?
Yeah, I honestly don't love it for the Flyers at all. Both Frost and Farabee have more to give. And you know what? Like, I'm not suggesting for a moment that Torts is a bad coach. I actually think he's a really good coach, but I don't think he was using either of them effectively. And I mean, you look at it, Farabee, like, I watched them play the Leafs a couple of days ago. Farabee and Frost already looked like totally different players in a different system. And I mean, the two best players in the deal went to Calgary. The one thing that is important here to note is Kuzmenko and Michkov are friends. And Kuzmenko, contrary to popular belief, speaks pretty good English. And so I think he's going to be sort of a middleman for Torts and Michkov on the bench when you can't have a translator just chilling on the bench. I think that's going to be very helpful for the relationship. The other thing is the Flyers, I guess they made the decision that they wanted to move off of Frost and Farabee, and taking on Kuzmenko, who's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, like it basically just gets them that cap flexibility back to go out and do something hopefully smart with that money. Like, I mean, Danny Briere is pretty good, so that's a decision they made, and I can see why they made that. Jacob Peltier is interesting. He never really caught fire in Calgary. Part of that's injury concern. I do think that there is something there. I'm not sure if it's more than a third-line player, but I do think there is something there. The thing is his time's running out a little bit for him in terms of development. So I'd be interested to see what he can do with the Flyers. They're going to give him all the tools because realistically he is probably the biggest piece of that trade coming back. And so I think when you look at it, you kind of have to hope that he turns into like a middle six player who can check effectively and maybe chip in like 15 goals a year.
Finally, because I can't believe this much has happened in such a short amount of time. The Mikko Rantanen trade, I heard on your latest episode of Puck Social, you and Mike called it the biggest in-season trade in, like a long, long time. Like maybe the Eichel, but the Eichel trade has so much like, yeah, he wasn't playing and it was inevitable, like the whole neck surgery issue. So this is just a straight up hockey trade, the biggest in years. What were you thinking about this one?
Yeah, it was a bomb, honestly. Like, I don't understand what this, and we talked about this on Puck Social. Like, we have two situations now, one in the NBA and one in the NHL, where there was a third team involved that didn't know what player was being traded, and in both cases, it was a freaking superstar. Like, freaking ask, guys. That's your job. Do the due diligence. But this was an absolute bomb, and I think underrated for Colorado. Like, Martin Necas is a really good hockey player, and I mean, it's one of those things where, like, he looks really good next to Nathan MacKinnon, and I'm sure a lot of people look really good next to Nathan MacKinnon, but I think that Necas is going to he's going to fill that void for Colorado, and he's cost controlled. He's got another year on his contract. I do think this was a smart deal for Colorado once they decided that they weren't going to be able to sign Rantanen. Now the cap announcement of the cap going up, maybe they want to mulligan on that one because they want to keep Rantanen. You never know. But then you look at Carolina, right? Their biggest issue in the playoffs is they can't score. They got a guy that can score. They don't need a guy who can drive play because they have guys who can do that. They need a guy who can score. Rantanen's kind of off to a poor start there. And I think part of this is Rod Brind'Amour's system isn't necessarily conducive to scoring. The guy wasn't a scorer. He was a Selke winner. And so I think when you look at this, part of it is his system. And if a guy like Mikko Rantanen, who scored like back-to-back 100-point seasons, can't score in Carolina, then I think we really do need to evaluate Rod Brind'Amour's system. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league, but maybe he needs to make some adjustments. But if Mikko Rantanen settles in, adjusts playing next to Sebastian Aho, and probably Seth Jarvis, like, I think that there's a chance that that's one of the best lines in the league, just based on their ability to drive play, two-way play, and Rantanen's ability to score. The thing is Carolina's got to be able to re-sign Rantanen. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, they're going to have a ton of cap space to do great things with, but you don't want to be giving up a player like Martin Necas for a half a year of a player who may not score at a 100-point pace when you get him. And so I think it's imperative that Rantanen finds his game, and probably for Carolina to re-sign him at a pretty good number.
I want to change gears here a little bit, Rachel. I got to see the Caps up close tonight. Last night they came to Philly. They win 4-3. Actually, one of the most entertaining Flyers games in like a month. And the headline of Washington has been Ovi's chase. He gets number 879 last night. He's 16 away from breaking the record. But you look at the Caps and, oh, wow, they're leading the President's Trophy race. They have the best points percentage in the league. They're tied for most total points, and they're 10-1 to win the Stanley Cup. They have shorter odds than Colorado, Jersey, and Vegas. Like, watching them last night, they're good, they're deep. I think they have 10 guys with at least 20 points. But I don't know if I see a cup contender there. Where are you on the Washington Capitals right now? They're by record best team in the league. They have the greatest goal scorer of all time. Their goalie has been excellent. What do you think about them?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that their odds should be better than Jersey's odds. Colorado is Colorado and Vegas is Vegas, and you're not going to get around that. But the thing that's very underrated for the Capitals that the other teams I just mentioned don't have the advantage of is none of the star players for the Caps are going to the Four Nations, so they are going to be off. Ovechkin, week off. Carlson, week off. Logan Thompson, week off. Dylan Strome, Pierre-Luc Dubois, all these guys, week off, and they're going to get to rest. You look at Colorado, Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, not Mikko Rantanen, but Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Devin Taves, like, they got guys that are going to the Four Nations. You look at Winnipeg, I mean, depending on Sidney Crosby's health, Mark Scheifele might be going now too. Connor Hellebuck's going. Kyle Connor is going. Josh Morrissey's going. Their stars are all going, and they're not going to get that break. And so I think one of the most underrated parts of this is rest. And the Caps are getting that because, like, no one's going. Inexplicably, Logan Thompson is not going. I once again, bang your head against the wall. I am so excited for Jordan Binnington or Aiden Hill to give up just an absolutely brutal goal and be like, you know who wouldn't have done that? Logan Thompson. But I look at the Caps and I go, I don't necessarily see cap contender, but I do think that is a distinct advantage that everyone is overlooking. And so when I look at the Caps, I still have them behind the likes of the Jets, the Avs. I would have them in the same category as the Leafs in the sense of, like, you need to prove to me that you can continue this in the playoffs before I'm going to say you're a cup contender, because there are a lot of guys on Washington who look great in the regular season and have been an abomination in the playoffs. I think we're going to need to see it there before we can say, okay, they're a cup contender at the same level as a Winnipeg, a Colorado, and Edmonton, those types.
Now, I'm hoping to have you back at some point during the tournament, maybe next week. We're about 5 days away from games starting in the Four Nations. So I just want to, with it coming up, what are your expectations for the tournament? What's your level of excitement for some actual international best on best? It's no Czechia, no Russia. It's a little weird, but it's international best on best. We have a real Team Canada USA game coming up for the first time in forever. How are you feeling? What's your level of excitement?
My level of excitement is going to crater significantly if Sidney Crosby can't play, because honestly, the thing I'm most excited for is I want to watch Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid play together. We have never got that opportunity. Hockey fans deserve it. And because the NHL couldn't get its crap together to send them to the Olympics, if an injury is what keeps us from seeing this, I am going to be absolutely furious about it. But I'm excited. I mean, Quinn Hughes potentially not playing is a massive storyline because I was really excited to see him play with his brother. I think that would have been really cool and an underrated storyline. And also, you're not replacing Quinn Hughes on your blue line. But generally speaking, yeah, I'm excited for best on best. I think generally speaking, the Finns and the Swedes always seem to up their play in the national uniform. And I'm interested to see, because I feel like a lot of people have sort of written them off and it's going to be Canada and the USA. I wouldn't necessarily be doing that. I mean, Sasha Barkov, number one, is capable of shutting down anybody. And then you look at Sweden, you look at their D-core, that's a real good D-core. The thing with Finland is without Miro Heiskanen, it's a big problem. And that's going to be an issue. But yeah, I'm looking forward to best on best. It's been a really long time since we've had this, and I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. And I'm just hoping that guys like Hughes and Crosby are healthy enough to play because, I mean, let's face it, Hughes is leading the Norris Trophy race right now, and Sidney Crosby is Sidney Crosby. So, yeah, if someone says, I'm not excited to see Sidney Crosby play international hockey, you are a liar.
I think I saw he's back on the ice at practice for Pittsburgh today, so that's a good sign just for the tournament having a premier player in it.
Yeah, the league is hello, Pittsburgh. What is happening here? Do tell. But the other thing, on the American side of it, you're going to get to see Matthews and Eichel and the Tkachuk brothers play together. That is going to, first of all, illegal. I need to watch them both play on the same line just to see the chaos. Just give me one shift for that. Or let them penalty kill together. Something like that. Just let them be the Bash brothers. I need to see it.
They have to give us those two together. It's the thing I want to see most in this tournament from Team USA is the Tkachuks together. That's what it's all about for Team USA, at least.
Somebody breathes on Austin Matthews, and all of a sudden you just get both Tkachuks
If we get international line brawl, this could be a lot of fun. Now, Rachel, this is a very serious question. I need you to really take your time and think about the answer here. Super Bowl Sunday, who you got?
I need to be careful. The model says Kansas City. And I have a personal rule. I don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. But what I will say is this. My biggest bet of the day is a Saquon Barkley touchdown. I mashed that thing because Saquon. And honestly, I understand why a lot of people are saying go Birds. So for me, the model says KC. I can easily see a scenario where Philadelphia wins. I think this is probably going to be the best Super Bowl we see in a very long time.
I think it's Eagles by 17, but that's just me. All right, Rachel, where can the people find your work?
Yeah, you can go to betalytics.com and sign up for our brand new website. It's awesome. It's going to have trends. There's soccer going up next week. Everything you're going to need to know about placing a bet. The Puck Social podcast, that's where Mike and I talk about everything from society to hockey and all those adjacent things, and Luka Doncic and Jerry Jones for some odd reason. And then you can read my work at ESPN. So those are the three places you're going to find me.
All right, outstanding. Thank you so much, Rachel. Hope to have you back during the Four Nations tournament. Enjoy yourself.
We all silly like the mayor.